gorgeous faces. It is so nice to see you all. Can I please ask everyone to be extra sure that you're muted, except for Shannon and Melissa, because if you aren't, your face will randomly pop up in the video while people are talking, and that would be weird. So it's nice to see you all. You all know the rules. I've got a double barrel call because I was telling Shannon and Melissa that I've been getting a lot of messages the last few weeks from people going through insecure moments, feeling worried about things. And it seems to be kind of something in the air at the moment. And it's spring, and there are no two people better to launch us into an amazing spring than Shannon Parks and Melissa Moran, right, Melissa? I got that right?
You got it. You got it.
Okay. So I'm going to start with a normal format. You guys remember, quirky questions only. I see everyone that's a guest so far is like an old timer, so you all know the spiel. But we'll have a good old chat, and then I will check the questions. Please type question ahead of them, and I will check them towards the end of the call. I promise not to monopolize these two jewels of guests. Now, Shannon is a return guest. So I'm going to, because everyone knows Shannon, we've introduced Shannon, so I'm going to throw Melissa right in front of the headlight first. Might as well dive in. And I'm just going to give them each a turn to answer my very special questions, starting with 10-year-old Melissa Moran. What did she want? What did she dream about? What was her personality like? What would people say about 10-year-old Melissa?
Wow. Okay, so she's used the word quirky. I'll borrow that for this. Very quirky little girl. She loves Disney animations. In fact, she wants to be an animator when she grows up. Loves cartoons, loves making silly voices. In fact, she also, which later fed into my career, is I used to have this primary colored voice recorder, and I would make up little stories. I guess now that I think about it, I'm putting two and two together. It was like my earlier narration career. I would tell, this is so funny. I would tell little stories into this recorder, and I remember there's one that pops up for me. It must have, maybe I got the recorder around Christmas because I made up a story about Jesus. He was hanging out with his buddies, and yeah, and then it was just so bizarre. And then I was super excited because I figured out how to hack the tape recorder to lay my voice over itself. And so I remember figuring out how to go, hello, 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 like Three Stooges, hello, 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 hello. And then I said hello like times 3.
I still can't even imagine how you could do that. That's actually quite something.
I don't know how I hacked it. It was just a little kindergartner tape recorder, but I figured out how to do that. So there's something there. But yeah, it's just a goofy little kid. And I was like the little artist of my class. And I had fun doing that. So that was 10-year-old Melissa.
So were you just kind of like easygoing and happy, or full of dreams, or did you think about what I'm going to be when I grow up, or were you just like so involved in the moment?
I think I was always future thinking. In fact, this was probably more when I was 11 or 12. And I was talking to my son about this the other day. For some reason, I wanted to turn my bedroom into an office. Like, I remember getting, because my parents had like a modular home built, like the kinds that are driven on trucks on the highway. You know, you see them, you're like, oh, look at that. It's a house. Cool. So they had one built, and I remember sitting in the office with them and saying, I want a gray carpet, not a blue one, because gray is the color of offices. And like flipping through whatever, like Staples or whatever office equipment center at the time, I remember flipping through brochures and saying like, I want this fax machine.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, I'm more bizarre than I thought. So yeah.
I think quirky is very appropriate. I love that. I've got to say,
Yeah.
that is like, you sound like the character of one of those like YA books. That'd be a
Yeah.
perfect protagonist. I think it's brilliant. That's lovely. Okay. Very good start. Thank you, Melissa. Shannon, 10-year-old Shannon.
Melissa, I can't believe that you wanted an office as your
I still love office equipment.
well, yeah, I've been kind of getting into fancy, fancy journals and fancy pencils and pens. It's very satisfying. I find myself doing a new calendar about quarterly because I mess up my calendar. I can't stand it. 10-year-old Shannon, I'm going to take, I'm going to speak in the first person. It feels like yesterday that I was 10. My parents had moved out to West Virginia. And, they were kind of hippies, but wanted to get off the grid. And so
They went to get off the grid. That's very forward thinking.
Yeah, well, 70s. So
Yeah.
I at that age, I was spending so much time outside, climbing around on the rocks. And my grandfather used to, I had a wildflower book, and he was very ill, but he would send me off to go collect wildflowers. And, we would just rock hop down the streams. And so that period of time in my mind was like half my childhood, when it actually was only about a year of time. It was just so formative.
Wow.
Being engaged that way. And there really wasn't anything else to do. We lived in a place called North River Mills, right next to the Millers. They'd been there since like the 1700s or something. And we just played and played and played. And then also around the same time, I got a flea in my ear that I wanted to be a ballerina. Which anybody that has seen me try to absorb choreography would know. It's pretty hysterical. But I used to, and this is terrible to admit, my sister will appreciate me admitting this, speaking of sisters.
She'll call me tomorrow and go, that part where I said I'd admit something to my sister?
Well, yeah, this is how bad it was. This is what a diva I can be. I would get everything set up for my show, which was generally bad dancing and okay singing that everybody had to watch for way too long. And I would make my sister do the costume changes and hold the light, just when I look back on it. But
was she your little sister?
Yeah, she's my little sister. That's the other thing I was doing at that age was I was pretty responsible, the 70s, so I was pretty responsible for my little sis, and still feel quite the same way that I'm, a little bit more of a mommy than I probably needed to be.
Yeah, I'm the same little sister. I did make her hold the TV antenna straight through my whole show so that it wouldn't fuzz. The little sister relationship's important.
Yeah, I think in balance, it was probably more love and fun and care than it was her standing there holding my light. Although I'm not sure what she would say. But yeah, I wanted to be a ballerina, and it was just so mysterious. And so I think I was reading The Little Princess, and there was this one, that had these beautiful, beautiful illustrations in it that were painted, these little painting, what do you call that? It's a inside of a book, these sort of paintings.
Yeah.
And I just, it seemed so exotic when it really wasn't particularly, but outside of the realm of what was possible, really for me, living in West Virginia and the Shenandoah Valley, it's not like there were dancing.
Ballerinas are exotic. I think
oh my
everyone
gosh,
thinks ballerinas are exotic.
Yeah, it's just exotic for me to be that sort of outside of the realm of. It wasn't like I was training as a ballerina. It wasn't like I was standing at the ballet bar since I was 5.
Did you ever train? Did you ever pursue it?
But I did. I went to St. Mary's College in Southern Maryland, and I had a wonderful movement and dance teacher, Laurie Leshin. She went off to study with Jacques Lecoq in Paris, and she was just like great at clowning and mask work and was a dancer. And so we all had to take ballet 1 and 2 as actors. And it was just like getting my teeth pulled. And I was trying so hard to do it right. And so we got to, I think I took ballet 1, 2, and 3. And then my senior year, I was supposed to take ballet 4. And I was doing a lot of modern dance and things like that. It wasn't like I wasn't dancing, and I was dancing for Laurie. And then she came to me and she said, can you maybe don't take ballet 4? It's so painful for you.
Oh my God.
It wasn't like you can't take ballet. It's not like, it was literally like, it's so painful.
At this point, was it still your dream, or were you kind of like,
No, I was well on the way to being an actor by then. But and I had done like dance and stuff all through high school, but yeah, that the lack of actual that particular training, and I really have felt it. Same thing with piano. I never learned to play the piano. I can sight sing, but can't play an instrument.
Yeah, same with me.
And so it's like a real thing that I wish I had pursued or been in a situation to have pursued it. But yeah, both of those things are kind of disciplined and rigid, which is not at all my personality, but maybe I felt I needed that structure. I don't know.
Already this is fascinating. And I want to go back to that 1 year seeming like your whole childhood. I'm not going to forget that one because that's a big, big point. And Karen also says, Shannon, it's not too late to start pursuing piano, ballet, or anything else. Yeah. Oh, do you know that one of the most famous ballerinas like in the world, I don't know anything about it, but during the pandemic, she did free classes on YouTube.
Yeah.
Did you see those?
Yeah.
You could do those.
Oh God, no. I mean, my teacher was right. My teacher was right. It was painful for me. It was sort of like every time I went to ballet, I was putting myself through this crucible that wasn't really going to serve me. I needed to keep taking jazz and figure out how to absorb choreography because, I'm a singer, so it would have been good if I was a little bit more of a triple threat, but I don't think those hours and hours at the ballet bar were ever going to serve me in good stead.
Also, you look a bit like a ballerina. So just some dreams, I think don't we have so many dreams? And some of them I thought about that because I spent a lot of my life going, I haven't done all the things that I wanted to do. But now I'm kind of like, well, but I could dress like I did, or I could, I could eat like a ballerina, or I could warm up and wear leg warmers. You know what I mean? You can adopt the parts of it that you thought were fun and leave the rest to the side. Okay, so now I want to know. So this is interesting to me because, and also, from what I see with your posts, I might be wrong. We've never sat down over a long meal, but I get the feeling that you're not a person that can be pinned in, and that you don't even like to pin yourself in, that you start to feel crazy if you feel like you're tying yourself down to structure and rigidity. And Melissa, I might be 100% wrong, but I get the feeling you don't like to be pinned in by other people, but you tend to pin yourself in. Am I wrong?
Interesting observation. I feel like I should be laying down right now. Yeah, there's something to that.
Like you like structure, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, maybe it's because you wanted an office when you were like 10. That could have been where I got it from.
Yeah, well, and you know what's interesting? I always felt like I should be an artist, and an artist is very much like, the hippie, the gypsy, the free thinking, floaty, blows with the wind kind of person. But then when I went into self-employment, I I really discovered that I am very A-type. I am very structured with certain things. So I feel like, it's interesting you say that, because I feel like there is this constant war between my creative side and the feeling that I must be this and I must be structured so that I can continue to thrive in my creativity. And I think I'm not the only one. I think a lot of us are kind of warring with both of those sides, whether we lean.
That's me. I am that. I want to be
Yeah.
Shannon. I want to be Shannon, but I have a suspicion that Shannon was born Shannon. It wasn't something she was able to develop, because there's a strength. I don't see her as like hippy dippy, but I see a strength in her openness. Excuse me for talking about you like you're not the room. I see
Let's
a
talk like
strength.
she's not there.
I see a strength in Shannon's nature and the fact that it's unbound. But I have to come to terms. I'm struggling right now setting up what most people would consider very strict schedules, because I'm not going to be a person that I'm just not. But I guess it's maybe finding that creative, because you're obviously creative. You're obviously creative. I mean, even 10-year-old Melissa was creative. So maybe letting her live in the structure. But I totally get that, because I've been trying to be like just let it go, kind of like have confidence in the creation and I don't. I'm like, right, okay, but I need my spreadsheet.
Yeah.
But you do 2 jobs, don't you? Because you do. I want to get into that more as well, so I don't want to spoilers. But you do, and Karen said, Melissa, you are and also you are an artist. One doesn't take away from the other. That's what I've had to learn. She loves the journal doodle you posted on Facebook about the story you tell yourself.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Let me launch in while I've got you here. Because I want to hear the evolution, and then I want to go to Shannon, because you were an actress pretty much your whole life, and I want to hear the difference between the journeys. So can you tell me, I'm fascinated by where life coach and narration met, and how you launched into, like, were you in school doing, like, tell us what happened.
I'll try to
Did
keep
you
it
get
short.
your office?
Yes. It's kind of a studio / office / junk room, but I've got it for the most part, and that's what it looks like in my brain, so I feel like it's very fitting. So I'm not gonna go into like super specifics. Yeah. How do I explain? So I've always been interested in self-development and all of that. So that side was always there. I've been reading books about neuroscience and psychology well before any of this happened. And then, you kind of fall in and out of stuff. And I was in radio, which led to narration.
You were in radio. Were you like, did you talk to people late at night and solve their problems, or were you like a DJ doing rock, or what did you do in radio?
I was an on-air personality for music. So I was a DJ.
That's so cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I did all kinds of things. I was doing hip hop in Atlanta, believe it or not. I was doing my last job was country. Gosh, what a 180 there. My last job was a morning show personality doing country here in Florida. So yeah, that was a super fun gig. But I left it to do this because it was also morning radio, and I had a newborn doing, 3 a.m. wake ups, which those
So you left
don't.
it to narrate or to do life coaching?
To narrate.
To narrate. Okay. And how did you know about that? Were you just like a long-time audiobook listener? And
Not at all. So a fellow radio colleague of mine had started doing audiobooks, and he called me with kind of an agenda because he said, "Hey, Melissa, I know you like theater, and I know obviously you're on the radio, so you know how to use a mic and you know the equipment. have you ever thought of audiobooks? And by the way, if you do them, I can edit for you. So I thought, oh, that's pretty clever. And up until that point, I had never even listened to an audiobook. And so I thought, that's interesting. I'll give it a listen. And so she's probably sick of me saying this, but the very first narrator I ever listened to was Tanya Eby, who is fabulous. And after listening to her book, I thought, oh, this is so cool. I'm going to give this a shot. And I actually emailed Tanya and I was like, I'm thinking of doing this. I have a baby. And at the time I knew she had kids as well. And I was like, how do you do it? Can I do it? Like, what are your thoughts? And she was so sweet. And she emailed back and gave me such a thoughtful reply. And to this day, she'll always be my number one. And yeah. And so from that, I launched into audiobooks and there we go. So the life coaching thing kind of stemmed from after a okay. there was a narrator in our community who we thought took his own life. I'm not going to get into names or anything. And we found out after the fact that that was not the case. But I had a conversation with this person over the phone, and I found out a couple of days later that the thought was that he had taken his own life, and that sent me into like a tailspin.
Yeah, it would. And even especially if you talk to him, because I know somebody 2 times narrators have passed away and I didn't know them. And that's the nature of our community. And one of my writers in December, and it was like losing someone in the family and I didn't even know them. So if you'd had a conversation with it's something about this community. It's something about the closeness we feel and the fact that we're the same person. So do you know what I mean? We understand each other. And so we feel so empathetic, especially, I mean, I can't even imagine if you'd had a conversation. I mean, I was depressed for 3 months when my writer passed away, and that was just emails, so did you go to life coaching to try to strengthen yourself so that you didn't end up?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was kind of because I had found out through a friend that I was the last person he spoke to on the phone. And so now logically, I know that I never said anything. Like, I couldn't have possibly said anything to have caused anything. Our conversation was pleasant, and I never, in fact, he seemed very hopeful and never gave it a second thought. It's all good. It's all good. So all that to say, I went into life coaching because it was all about communication. Could I have, were there cues I could have picked up on?
Yeah.
Did I ask the right? And like, look, I know, like, I don't blame myself, and I don't hold any responsibility. And I will say, after the fact, and some of you may know who I'm talking about, but it was after the fact that we had found out through an autopsy, his family released the information publicly that it was actually from a heart condition, but he just happened to have a bottle of pills that were empty, like, at his side. So that's where that's where the thought came in. But after that, in the in between time, I questioned my connection with people. How do I communicate? How do I listen? And even interestingly, when I heard that it had nothing to do with taking his own life, I questioned for a second, was that the reason I went into this? And do I feel absolved of that now? Do I still pursue this? And I know that sounds like a weird question to ask
but we're
yourself.
humans, and we question and we try to analyze because we feel like we have to. In my opinion, we feel like we have to know why for everything. And sometimes they're two things can be true. So intellectually, you know the facts and how you're supposed to feel, and you intellectually understand why you feel bad, but feelings have a life of their own, and you just feel what you felt. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference whether it was your motivation but just think how wonderful, no matter what way you got to it, you becoming a life coach is. I mean, I didn't even know you, and I can't even remember what it is, because thank God I'm a Gemini. I have the attention span of a fly. So even my life
Same here.
tragedies, they last like 5 minutes, so I forget them. But you reached out to me during one of my life tragedies on Facebook, and I didn't even know you. And you said just the right thing at just the right time. And that is a gift, right? Because you could, I have no doubt you've done that for someone that isn't a Gemini and might have a harder time getting, somebody that was in need of a hand out. You know what I mean? Because I know you were there for me, and you were a complete stranger saying just the right thing at just the right time. So that's amazing, whichever way you got there, whether he inspired it or not.
Yeah. And, and the conversations that I've had since going through the certification process and doing the school thing, I thought, why wouldn't I? Because this is such a gift to give people, and simply for the connection alone and the offer of communication, and it's so powerful. So that was the journey. I didn't mean to depress you.
No, I love that. I love that because I love that. I love that. And I like honesty. I think that's what I love about these calls, about what the gifts you and Shannon and the guests bring to this call. You bring your honest selves. And I think we learn more from watching other people's energy than we do from how do I get a publisher job? I'm so bored with all that now. Not the publisher jobs, I'll take it if you're offering, but I'm bored with the all those. Let's this is good stuff. Says my Oprah head. So how long have you been a life coach now?
It's probably been just about a year, I want to say.
Okay, so and is it fulfilling?
Very, very fulfilling. Yeah. And sometimes I think the only challenge I have right now is has to do with I don't want to take up too much of this. Shannon has a lot of good things to say.
No, we're good because I'm already percolating the question I've got for Shannon in a second too. So we're good. We're good.
Oh, okay. I think right now what I'm dealing with is more an identity issue, and wondering, am I talking too much about, and this is just personal stuff, am I talking too much about being a life coach, and is that turning publishers off, or are they thinking, oh, she's a life coach now, so we don't have to, she's busy, we're not going to.
You know what, I can answer that for you, because I went through that with Cup of Joe, because everywhere I went, people were talking about Cup of Joe, and nobody ever mentioned me being a narrator anymore.
You're like, I'm also this.
Yeah,
still.
Exactly. And you want to, and they say network, they say make friends, they say that's the way to book jobs, they say. And I was booking lots of other people, lots of jobs, and I thought, am I still a narrator? And people kept sending me messages saying, thank you so much for your help, you're such a good support for the community. And I was like, that's great,
still got to pay the bills.
I'm a narrator. But I made a promise to myself that solved that. Every time I mentioned Cup of Joe, and I've kind of stuck to it in an obnoxious way. Every time I post a video about Cup of Joe or mention Cup of Joe, I post a video about my work or mention my work somewhere that feels natural. And it literally, the problem completely disappeared.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. I like that idea.
Yeah. Completely fixed it.
So, by the way, I'm a life coach. Also, here's my reverse harem. Check it out.
Or
Here's
maybe
my
post in
MC
different
romance.
places.
Here's Debbie does a football team. Also, if you want a consultation, I'm available.
Actually, in this community, you have a lot of people. Okay, now I'm dying to hit Shannon with a question, but I want to ask this question that came in for you real quick because I don't want to forget it, because I'm going to go off the deep end with Shannon here. Melissa, from Kim, what was your favorite format when you were on air?
Ooh.
Careful, Tad was in radio too, and he's already said he hates country.
Yeah. Well, it's not necessarily the form. Well, because I did morning radio in the country music station, and I have to say I loved the morning show because I could be more talky and more of a personality. Whereas I loved the CHR like top 40 format, but it was just like, here's the new one from Usher. Check out our website. It was very like impersonal, and here's what we're doing this weekend, and see me at the car dealer, on Saturday. So I would say only because there was more of a chance to be me. Country radio is where it's at, and the people were lovely, whether or not you like the music. But I would say that was probably my favorite experience. But there are things I could pick out from each station I was at that were just amazing, fun life experiences. So
well,
it was
Tad got to do obituaries on the air. So now that, I don't think we could beat that.
I win.
Thank you very much, Melissa.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to throw Shannon in the spotlight because I got two questions, actually a question and a thing. So Shannon, first of all, your call that you had with me, you do know, I don't know if you know that you changed my career with a simple concept. The way you talked about your booth being your sanctuary, I was having such a hard time and such a hard relationship with, why do I love this job so much and I'm finding it so excruciating being in there doing the job. So who am I? Am I a hypocrite? I mean, this was a long time ago, but it turned a switch. It's what we said, what I was saying with Melissa. You could say just the right thing at just the right time. And it was just, and I think it goes back to what I admire about you the most and what I was saying when I was talking to Melissa about you. It's not something I'm ever going to be able to achieve because I think it's who you are. But there's a strength in your relaxation. There's a strength. I think I might be wrong. I mean, I don't want to presume things, but it feels like you live your life by instincts and your gut sense. And there's a strength, like a flow. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong. I just think that we all have so many things happen to us. And it just feels like probably in the last 6 years or so, there have been so many huge like life whammies, just so many things. So I feel like I've had to develop I know that I have had to develop greater resilience.
Yeah.
And that resilience is just, it kind of, for me, needs to be, I can't just go, oh, I'm going to be resilient, but I've got to put some things into practice that allow me to be resilient. So no, I think I said last time, you changed me. You said I told Melissa this too. You said there's enough gorgeousness to go around.
Oh yeah, the burly thing. Yeah.
Which I love that. I love that. But I think in retrospect, I think it's this call. I don't think that anybody that really truly knows me would say that I was laid back. I am very, very wired emotionally. And so again, those the sort of keeping myself in balance, trying to get outside, trying to be structured and ritualized about the work that I don't want to do or that I'm afraid of or don't have the time, headspace, heart space to do it well.
So are you structured? Do you feel like you're a very structured person? Because you look so relaxed about everything. I don't know how you do it. You look like you're just like,
oh, fake. No, I feel infinitely more relaxed than I did 7 years ago. Infinitely more relaxed. I think I've really, really learned a lot about what it is that, kind of, and I'm not religious about any of these things, everything in moderation, including moderation, right? I'm not religious about them. I just find that I do better. My busy, crazy brain does better when there's some ritual. So things like I'm going to leave the baggage outside of the studio. I'm going to try to just go in there and be available to the work. Or I have to get outside. It doesn't matter if it's the most miserable day. I have to kind of take the measure of the day and hopefully, actually be engaged with it. You need to eat reasonably well. I need water, but that
like,
also.
How would you raise a 5-year-old kind of thing? Like,
kind of
eat meals, go to bed on time,
feeding.
brush your teeth. I always brush my teeth, by the way, but the rest, I have challenges with.
Care and feeding. I'm obsessed with brushing my teeth. Care and feeding. I was thinking about Melissa talking about her 10-year-old self in the third person. And it reminded me of this thing that I learned this just walking on the beach. Something I've been trying to learn my whole life. I thought, since I sort of started to pay attention to new agey stuff, right? Was this idea of our inner child. And I liked what Melissa, the way you were like, she was this way, because it made me feel as though you're still taking care of that little girl and honoring the way that she is. And when I was walking down the beach one day and I was just, all this stuff was going on and my brain was going a million miles, even on the beach with the rhythm of the surf, I was just still churning. And out of the blue was this, what does that little girl need right now? How can you take better care of her? And it wasn't even a kind of a conscious or intellectual thought. It was literally like it was visited on me by the heavens. And I'm not a particularly religious person, but yeah. So I think there's something there about recognizing your own fragility, your own fear, the crappy things about you, the things that are not great, and just seeing if you can take care of the little child, to make that stuff not as live and bubbly, right? That it's sort of like, I wouldn't bring, or even now when my kids are grown, I'm not going to bring all of my angst to them, right? I'm not going to put them through the tortures of judgment, right? There's just another way to do it. So if I can talk to or the way you would talk to a dog, right? Good girl, you did it, great. There's something to be said for that sort of simplicity of allowing yourself to, in some honesty, face the stuff that's not great, but also go, okay, I'm going to forgive you for this. You're just a little child. What do you need? Are you thirsty? Do you want your special cup of tea? Do you need some sleep?
Oh my God, I think after, I can't remember when it was a few weeks ago, every once in a while I'll have an idea, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I'll sit down and write like an article. It was like, and I put it out on Medium. I don't even remember what caused it, but I just go off myself and I have to write something, get it down on paper, and I put it out there and it's gone and I've forgotten it. And I realized afterwards, that's my muse. Very rarely hits, but now I've got this thing in my head that everything I do that's bad for me, because I think when you've spent your lifetime beating your internal voice up, it's hard to I think of my inner channel. I think, oh, just shut up and get to work, Daniela. And that's what my inner voice goes. But now I say, you've got to protect your muse, which I value more than anything. And anything on earth, that creative spark, I need to be damn ready when it comes, because that's amazing. We all do it. When you get an idea and you're just like, it has to be, I'm going to do it. And if you do it immediately, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Very rarely. And that's my goal now, to protect my muse. I want to protect my inner child, but I've got this like voice in
No,
my head.
I love that. I think muse I mean, I don't, inner child just has so much cliched attachment to it. And it's really just that kind of, innocent, naive, fragile, available, creative part of yourself that you want to nurture, and calling it a muse is, I think, perfect. I also like that you find it in a word dump, in a writing dump, right? That, because that's very helpful for me. What's that artist sway thing, that morning pages. And I couldn't get through the artist sway.
I couldn't either. I've tried like 12 times.
Yeah. Well, it felt a little bit like it was, because we have the luxury of working as creative people, as artists. And so it felt like it was sort of a nudge out of the cubicle to find your creativity. And I was like, if I found any more of my creativity, I wouldn't get anything done. So I certainly don't have all this time to give that. But the one valuable thing that I took out of it was that morning pages of just getting the chatter out of your brain, just dump it out, be done with it. And there was, I can't remember, I'm trying to remember the quote, something like, creativity will come to you, but it has to find you working, is that Pablo Picasso, I think. I'm butchering the quote. I think if anybody knows it, write it down or find it. Creativity will visit you, but it has to find you working. And to me, that's not slaving away in my, it is actually working, meaning available to that muse. Working meaning I'm going to be structured about these things so that they give me the opportunity to be available to that creativity. So the working part is about the structure. And I am pretty structured about that stuff, because I am not in the least bit type A. That, you're right about that. It's just, so things need to be scheduled. I need to give myself I time my breaks from the studio, or I won't get back in there. And then I'll be up at 3 a.m.
I go back to you. I get the feeling you work on instinct and listen to yourself. I just keep getting that feeling. It's what you said about the sanctuary of your booth. It's what you said. I feel like you've got like a voice in you. I get all my direction, for instance, from a spreadsheet. I intellectualize, I decide what I need to do, and it comes from the 8 zillion self-help books I've read. And there's no inner me going, I think this would be the best schedule for me. I feel like you've got an inner you that you actually listen to. Sometimes is the key word there. I think also there's just no right way. I know a lot of the narrators that I get to work with that are early or not early, and I struggle with this sort of, this is right, that's wrong, this is good, this is bad. This constant pulse of judgment there. And I just feel that there's way more gray area. And there's certainly more gray area for our particular work, which, we're sort of expected to be inspired for 4 hours a day, 7 days a week, or whatever it is. With the headache and the sore throat.
Oh, yeah. And I have a chronic illness. And like some days it's just not, or some days I did bring in all of the life struggles. And, I'm literally sort of doing this for so long. Many of us can do this. Is just keep reading. My brain has gone out to lunch. I'm like,
the energy of worry, the energy of, I've so many people have been emailing me lately about dry spells. The energy it takes you to feel desperate and ask yourself if you're good enough or not good enough is taking up the energy where you should be creating. You've got to switch the energy. The jobs won't come until you switch internally. It's so key. But I guess you're right. It's like the boat keeps trying to go back to, I can't remember the terminology.
Yes. I mean, you have to kind of or you're just going to capsize because you're not the one that is controlling the boat. You're not the one that is paying attention to the way the wind is blowing. I also think this is cyclical. I think it was Marnie Penning that posted about setting aside a February fund because February is traditionally slow for her. Well, I started taking a vacation with my daughter about 5-6 years ago in February. 10 days, 2 weeks, if we could possibly get to someplace warm.
That's so lovely.
Because that was the time for the last 10 years has been traditionally slow. I'm always missing some work there. And usually I am slammed from things. I don't think I've had an actual holiday in many, many years. Slammed from Thanksgiving through the New Year. And then February is a desert wasteland in the middle of an East Coast winter that's just it's very, very easy to get lost in that regard. So Marnie was saying she puts money away in advance of that. I put a vacation away so that I'm not obsessing about the work not being there. And I do think that's a function of being freelance. We're constantly needing to prop ourselves up. And one of the cool things that I've noticed in this community is that there's a whole lot more, or maybe I'm just becoming more involved in it. There is a tremendous amount of propping up that happens. Even on this call, I know I'm not supposed to read the chat, but it keeps popping up.
I know, don't read the chat.
Call, I know, and that's something that I really shouldn't do. But when Melissa was feeling upset in that story, and there was 3 people that were like, I hear you, and you're good, or you are an artist. It's just like a lot of support. We really in this job need to connect with others, and we have to take care of our mental health, and we've got to take care of our physical health and our spiritual health, or it becomes very isolating. I mean, it absolutely can, where it's just you in there with words, and we send that stuff out into the world and it doesn't get a tremendous amount of feedback creatively. We don't have a director. We talked about this last time, I think. So it can get so isolating and we can start to spin. And so I think that's one of the things that I didn't really expect about working with narrators is how much of the job coaching, that's a big piece, at least for me, that's a big piece of the coaching job, is this sort of, how can we bolster you up and frankly us up, because I can give all the advice I want to, but it's me taking my own advice. But
that's why so many people credit Shannon with being the one that saved them when they were floundering. And I've had so many people just like, oh, the person that helped me the most was Shannon. And you make me realize, because I'm thinking, no, it's not. I have more friends I've ever had. But then I realized how many times of like my actual friends, most of who are in the audience on this call, have had me spiraling to them. But I'm just thinking, oh, they're just my friend, and we're just, they can spiral back. But how lucky I am that,
I think finding core community is really important. Yeah. Because the other thing that really happens for us is this sense of overwhelm, that when the work, you were talking about people feeling a little desperate, a little sad, a little worried. Well, I'm constant. Everybody that really knows me knows I am so overwhelmed by social media. It is all I can do to just post on one platform. It is such a big thing that I need to work on. And I've got it all loaded up, right? It's all loaded up with fear and anxiety and madness that I have to do it now. And so then there's this overwhelm that happens. And we start to feel like, oh, the only way I can get work is to do this, and this, because there's such a wealth of information. And frankly, there's so many ways into the industry. There's so many ways to keep working. So yeah, the idea that somehow you're supposed to be on every Clubhouse, on every Zoom, on every...
I figured that out, Shannon. I figured that out recently. Okay, so this is the thing. I'm not very good at some of the social media things. Like Clubhouse, I'm just not. I just can't. I can't see people. I interrupt them all the time. It freaks me out. So, but the thing is, everything I was doing because I had to get work, right? So on APAC, somebody said to me, and I admire her so much. And I admire the narrators that do it. They're like, well, I just friend a lot of writers in my genre, and I'm on TikTok and Instagram, and I live narrate, and I get these great conversations. And, you know, and so I've got this strong core of my business that's not reliant on any, and I thought, wow, I'm going to do it. How many people are out there doing that for thrillers? That's me. And I'm going to bombard them. I'm going to be best friends. And I went on Instagram and I announced to all my current writers, I'm going to do this. I'm going to live narrate. And I went on Instagram, and then I did this like, oh crap, I hate live narrating. I really feel awkward here. And I friended all these like thriller writers. And so then I logged off, right? I did it. Okay, so they're all going to become my friends now. And I went and looked at my message, and I had like, I'm not kidding you, 30, or on TikTok and Insta, 30 or 40 men on each going, hi, darling. Hello. It was like,
Yeah.
You're not a writer, are you? It was like, so
Yeah.
now but I thought I like making videos, right? I like doing them anyway. Why am I not just doing videos with little clips of what I've narrated today anyway? If the whole point is to show up as me, right? And I'm not going to be young and hip in a hoodie on TikTok. I like Photoshop and the mall. I am not like Miss Natural, unfiltered, raw anything. That's why I hated doing Discord. I get the idea, but I am not unfiltered. So my thing is, I'm doing the work now because I love doing the work. I keep forgetting that. And it was your thing with my booth is my sanctuary. Keep going back. I guess I do have a rudder. I just didn't know it.
Yeah.
And I've only started this like the last 2 weeks, but it feels good and authentic. And I'm posting obnoxiously every day, like a new video of me somewhere narrating. And it feels natural because it's just my work that I did that day, but it's mastered and it's on a video and I had fun. I'm doing it my way. So if we're doing social media to get work, it's gonna feel horrible. But your posts, your memes have saved my day so many times. So they can't just be you trying to get work, because they're like from the heart.
Well, that's that little, I mean, that's what I mean by what I'm hearing you say is, what are you interested in?
Yeah.
I'm interested in what ways can we as humans understand each other better, prop each other up, love ourselves, so we are available to love other people. That's what I'm reading about. That's what I'm trying to, sort of generate in my own life. So it feels perfectly natural and fun to do that Facebook narration coaching, Shannon Parks narration coaching, I think is the name of that group, because it's something that I'm already thinking about and kind of sensitive to, the ravenous butterflies every single day. Like, I'm like, oh yes, that's exactly how I feel.
Yeah. And just share the stuff you like, and then you've hit enough spots, because that's what we all love you for. And your narration will take care of your narration. You've done 18,000 books. That didn't happen by accident. Right?
I don't think that that's true. I don't think that your narration, I think, and this is something I think Johnny Heller is absolutely right about, is that we have to always be marketing, always growing. And that has been one of my big challenges, is to sort of, I mean, this businessy, but align Shannon Parks with Marguerite Gavin, right? Because that wasn't happening.
But you are marketing. That's the way. I might be wrong. Showing up as yourself is marketing.
Yeah. If people can identify you and your pseudonym, right? There's a little bit of a marketing disconnect there. But I think that this is one of the things that is challenging for me generally, is staying flexible with how the industry is changing, right?
Yeah.
That's where I can get rigid, where I'm like, this is the way it has been always. I told him I had space in my schedule. I got a book. I just had a flow of books. And that really was the way it ran for a very long time. And so now I'm sort of like, well, I paid my dues. I've got this. And that's just not the way it works, right? That you can't just sort of toss your seeds out there and hope something grows, because, you know, that soil was always fertile for you before. It's changed so that things like TikTok or being on Discord or being on Clubhouse, and being on, you know, a number of different platforms becomes necessary. So how do we do those things? And Melissa may be able to speak to this more than I can. How do we, with some joy, do the things that we're filled with fear about? Because ultimately, it's not about me not liking it. It's me being afraid of it,
But
right?
what are you afraid of? Well,
I've never been really good at self-promo, right? I don't like being the product at all, even as I'm trying to sort of be as, you know, be as open and authentic as possible. This sales piece for me is difficult, and the tech piece is difficult. Like, it takes me longer. It takes me a lot longer to make a video than, you know, just all of those little pieces, all of those moving parts. I mean, really, I'm just born in the wrong century. Need horses and buggies. So
two quick thoughts. First, Anna Clements just said, and it's right on spot here, my favorite quote at the moment, all fear wants is reassurance. And she says so much of this is resonating. Second, I'm going to actually hand over to Melissa for a second to talk about the showing up when you feel fearful of showing up, because I was known as the show off from the time I was like 2, dancing around in my grandmother's lingerie. So like, I don't have the capacity to understand that. But then third of all, the tech stuff, send me a message. I'll help. I'm like a video nutcase. I'll help you, seriously. And also, you just open a bunch of tabs, cut and paste. I know they say it's not ideal to cross post everything, but it's better than nothing. If you're showing up doing something you're joyful about, cut and paste, done. You're on all the platforms. So I'll take care of the tech. It would be my honor.
Thank you, my dear.
But as far as the fear and the showing up, Melissa, are you there?
I'm here. Yeah, no, I mean, 2 things really quick. So, number one, it's totally your choice and it's your decision. So the question is, do you not want to do social media because you hate it and you don't want to do it, and it's not about the fear, it's just you don't want to do it, and that's a choice. You can still be a successful narrator and not feel like you need to do that. Or is it more like, I really want to do this, I'm just fearful to do it, and I'm afraid of the judgment, self or otherwise, that I will receive from it. And I think there's something to be said about Shannon, you mentioned it feels like sales and marketing, and there's that disconnect of me as a personality and me as the salesperson. And you can make it be, this is me, and that's your sales. Like, you know, I mean, it's interesting because we're narrators and we're in the creative field. We're not selling like Bic shavers, you know what I'm saying? Like, we are selling ourselves as the personality, and it doesn't have to be necessarily sales. So there might be something there to work on, as to feeling like you're selling yourself as a product, rather than selling yourself as just like, this is me, Shannon, and you know. So there may be something there. I forgot what the other piece of this was. But and then, you know, you showed up on Zoom, you got here, so you know how to work a camera, so you know.
Just barely.
I think the age thing, you're doing yourself a disservice if you allow it to feel, because I've heard so many narrators that started when you call up and you say, I'm free and I've got a job. And oh, now I have to suddenly change everything I'm doing. But if you look at the nature of your career and being a freelancer, you've been changing everything you've been doing every single step of the way. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
an age game. It's our age literally has nothing to do with it. It's what Melissa said, decide which challenges. My favorite narrator in the whole world, Jeff Harding, favorite narrator in the world. Like, I'm obsessed with the guy. I really hope he doesn't ever see any of these, because then he would like avoid me, think I'm a stalker. But I cannot reach him to like get him on this call, which would like be like my dream,
Oh.
but I can't reach him. He's not on social media anywhere.
Wow.
That's not
Huh.
hurting him at all. He's booking like every single thing he can get. So I know
Right.
you have to reach out, but I think that the divide between people that started and people that just came into the field now, what the people that started don't understand is I don't think you have to sell yourself. I just think you have to show up, be yourself, and make friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I will say that, one of the problems with the whole social media thing is I haven't stopped working. I'm just maybe not getting the work that I might be interested in, or just little things. It's not like I'm not working. So what that tells me is that I've already judged the whole thing. I've already made decisions about it. I've already created a lot of sturm und drang around it that doesn't need to be there, because I'm not trying necessarily to shake down work. Right?
And you're not
really
saying
what
anything,
I want to do is make connections.
And you're also not saying anything that Johnny Heller, Hillary Huber, anyone else that started when you started has that many books hasn't been saying. Everyone's saying it. There is a feeling to it. Helen Lloyd, it's a thing. It is definitely a thing. But from all our eyes, you're the success that everyone else is trying to be. Do you know what I mean? Everyone else wants to get in the headspace that you're in, and you're thinking that, I
need to make a TikTok video. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. But again, I think that there is I always come back around to, this is an art form, or at the very least a craft, right? We're craftspeople. And so it's easy to suck the joy out of that for me, because I forget that it's an acting job. I don't give it all of my juice every single day. And again, this is about inspiration for 4 hours a day, 5-6 days a week. I'm not sure it's possible. If we were in the theater, right, you're going to have a great show Thursday and a crappy Sunday matinee, and you understand that that's part of the experience. The theater is ephemeral. We're putting this stuff out in perpetuity. And when you get up to like 600 books, it's terrifying to me to think back to the things that were going on. And all I can do is hope that everybody else has that same kind of challenge. But I think the main thing is that there's no right way to do this. And that if we're going to be authentic, we need to discover, not we need or should, we can discover our own authentic way in. And it's maybe just getting enough out of our own way, or at least for me it is, get enough out of my own way to just do the work. I mean, I do the rest of the work. So in some ways it's just, okay, implement this work, stop screwing around. Right?
But you're saying what so many people are thinking, and this is the challenge. We should all say it, every single one of us, because it takes out the, oh God, should I be saying this? People are going to think I'm not having problems getting work. I swear I'm okay. But two things you said resonated so much with me that I almost confirmed what I've been thinking. That year of your childhood that felt like your entire childhood. And it connected to me the two things that I've been running around in my mind. There's a book, and I can't remember the name. Sarah Nessel told me about it, 4,000 Weeks or something. Maybe somebody will put in the chat box, remind me. One of my favorite books on earth. I think I know the name. about time and the passage of time and where our mental state, how our mental state affects it, and how you can shrink time or expand time, and how we get older and it goes like a flash. But when you have those true moments, and I've had a couple of true moments, like in the booth, like I had to ask myself, I did a romance, 400 weeks, amazing. And I had to ask, I'm going to send you guys a chat after the call as well, so don't worry, you won't lose everything. I did a romance, and I was mentally feeling like I was like 20. And it was like very kind of bittersweet, but I was feeling very emotional during the book. It's like a romance. I'm having to stop to bawl my eyes out like every 5 minutes. And all I really did was want to have sex every 3 minutes. But it was very emotional for me. And I want to get back to that. But then what you said about structure, I've pulled out all my 1950s housewife books, and I want to get back to the safety and security of a nice breakfast, sit at the table, nice lunch, nice dinner, bedtime every night. You have a ritual. I want to have the safety and security of ritual, and then be able to feel safe enough and secure enough so that your mind is calm, so that you can go cry your freaking eyes out over a romance in the booth. But you know, and those two things you said, that's that. I want that year of that seems like I want that again. And who's to say we can't get that just because you're a tiny bit older? Like I want it back. I want time to, I think when you have kids, do you get that by watching the world through their eyes?
When you're not completely stressed out because you're raising kids.
See?
When you're not sleep deprived and they aren't running off the rails in some way. But one thing that you said about I want that year, it almost, or even the romance that you were crying through, you were allowing yourself to be that 20-year-old. You were allowing yourself to play. For me, one of the reasons that being outside is so important is it's a moment I can't help but play. Right? It's some days it's just all I can do not to cartwheel down the beach, because I feel I'm right away rooted back into that sense of play. And I feel like if we can bring that particular sensibility into our lives, then you will have a year that lasts for longer, because you will have been playing through it, right? And doing all your fabulous things.
And that's the public domain books when I know you're sick of me saying this, when you go through a dry spell, do a public domain book.
Yeah.
You're busy, you're playing, you're completely having fun. Next thing you know, you won't have enough time and somebody's going to want you to do a book. But
absolutely.
Yeah, you're right. Play. Okay. Wow. Okay. Wow. I'm a changed woman. I don't know about you guys.
I love, my God, we could talk for another hour. And like it's in the seeking of those moments too that we miss so much in between, right? Like right now could be your moment. Right now could be something. But in the want of it all, we're missing the now of it all. And it's so tough because we're expecting big moments, but also small moments add up. And I think we forget that too.
Yeah, I love
that idea of play. Yeah. Even just like getting out and like, when's the last time you went to a playground and sat on a swing? Like,
or left your flat.
Or left your flat. I have to really be booted out of my house right now.
Yeah, I pretty much just stay in the booth. Yeah, I've always been very rigid. When I was a child, I had a very tight schedule.
And at the same time, you were dancing in your grandma's lingerie, right? That's not rigid.
But I scheduled it in. I had my performance stuff, and I got very upset when everyone else didn't show up and sit right where they were supposed to sit.
Right.
You guys, Melissa's right. We could go on forever. We must do this again someday. You are I'm so grateful that you both spent the time with us. Oh God, I forgot to let you guys ask quirky questions. I'm so sorry. I will send the chat to them afterwards, and I will beg them to come back someday, because I think you'll all agree this was the exact tonic we need for for a wonderful spring, and we can all conquer the world now. Onwards and upwards. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
you guys.
Thank you.
Wonderful,
Thank you so
wonderful.
much.
You guys,
Such
I
a
hope you
pleasure.
have a
And
fabulous
thank
week.
you, Melissa.
Pure joy. I think we covered joy and happiness as planned. Bye. Bye, guys. Take
All
care.
right. Bye, you
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take